We're back in the studio with Ben Terrell of the College Republicans and Andy Mangrum of the College Democrats. Thank you both for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, yeah, we're happy to be here.
Yeah, great. So we're going to start with, how about you two just explain your organizations and what they do around Truman's campus? We'll start here with Andy.
Oh yeah, so College Democrats, we meet every Monday and we all sit around and talk about politics and issues, and we talk about ways people can get involved. We send people towards campaigns that would work better for them. And whenever we can, we do canvassing events and stuff like that. So we definitely try to do some outreach, and once the campaign's over, we can hopefully start getting back involved with like community organizations. And I know the United Way has been reaching out, so we want to help with them.
Yeah, College Republicans do something kind of similar. Shameless plug, we meet every Thursdays at 6:30, Magruder. We work with campaigns. We actually had, the Greitens campaign has an office up here, and we've put in quite a few hours these last couple of days. And so that's something we've been working hard on. And anytime that a campaign needs help, something like that, we help them out. A few weeks ago, Homecoming Parade, we actually supported 6 campaigns, and 3 or 4 of those were solely College Republicans. So, but come election season, once it's over, we're going to be working on campus activism, working hard in the community, stuff like that. We're hoping to bring a speaker next semester. We're a little unsure on who it's going to be, but hopefully it's going to be a big deal. So we're working hard.
Yeah, and specifically, Ben, you have the hat on tonight. We noticed that you've been working a lot with Mike Parson. What has that been like for you? Oh,
man, it's been so much fun. It's been awesome. I've met a lot of people in the campaign, a lot of higher ups, and they're always happy to see college kids getting active. They always sing the praises of Truman in general. I've met Mike Parson quite a few times. We're on a first name basis, and it's something that when I first started here, I didn't think I'd actually get to. But, and I've worked a lot of campaign events. You get over that whole nerve-wracking, I have no idea what I'm doing right now, feeling pretty quick, and then it just becomes a lot of fun. And I'm pretty sure Andy can attest to this too. One of the best parts about doing campaign events and stuff like that is you start seeing some of the same people over and over again, and it's like seeing an old friend again. So they get to be a lot of fun, and campaigns are just a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you have any similar experiences, Andy?
Well, I don't work on any specific campaign. I run the whole statewide College Democrats. So I have to try and do coordination amongst all of it with all the campaigns. Up here in Kirksville, I've had Jason Kander and organized events with him 3 different times now. And we just had the big rally in the Sub Down Under on yesterday morning. We had about 200 people there, and Jason walks up to me and goes, "Hey, come here. Here's what here's the order," and he just talks with me, and he just doesn't bat an eyelid. He doesn't bother introducing himself because we know each other at this point. So it is just really nice whenever you get to know these people on a personal level and know that these guys who want to represent you, they do care. Yeah, it's really nice.
Sounds like a great experience too, especially at a college level.
Oh yeah.
So Andy, we noticed that you put your specific candidates that you're voting for on Facebook. What was your motivation behind doing that?
Well, I definitely want to make sure people understand that there's some races that really do matter. I didn't bother with the 6th district House race because Blackwell just isn't a candidate who's really performing. He doesn't try to actually campaign. But I wanted to make sure everybody knew who the candidates that I really believed in were. And whether it be Hillary Clinton at the top or Judy Baker at the bottom, I cared about all those people.
And a question for both of you: where do you get most of your information from?
I hear mine just everywhere. Going to campaign events and stuff like that. Of course, when you're working with a campaign, you hear the best parts about them, and so that helps me if I see someone who's like, "Oh, I don't like this about that candidate." I'm able to help combat that. But then, being on Truman's campus, I hear the exact opposite opinion, and so I hear a lot about that, and I feel like I get a decent view of both sides. And then, of course, you do a lot of research. College Republicans helps a lot with that too. We have people who come up and present about their candidates and stuff like that. Just make sure everybody's on the up and up with what's all going on.
And back whenever I was in high school, and every time I go home over the summer, this is a good starting point. I do a lot of pizza delivery, so I will work a 10-hour pizza delivery shift, and I'll listen to NPR the entire time. So I get a lot of information from there, and then obviously I'm not sitting here listening to the radio all the time up here at college, but I pull from all the different things. If Fox News has a good story, I'll even listen to Fox News. But typically I'm getting it from NBC or Politico or any other places. But definitely a lot of word of mouth. As a poli-sci major, you get a lot of different sources, and you learn a lot of different things just researching and stuff like that. So we definitely pull from a lot of places.
I'm going to quote you on that Fox News bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's on TV, so it's here. What do you guys feel like the role of social media has been in this current election?
Go ahead, Andy.
Oh, man. I think that people need to stop listening to every single, like, if there's a post on Facebook and somebody shared a link, it's not always like the most reliable thing out there. I know you might hate me for this, but I see a lot of Breitbart articles getting shared. And I don't know if people realize or not, but not a single journalist works for Breitbart. I mean, you might find one person with a journalism degree that works there. And it's because, and that's what kind of leads towards them just having this tabloid media type thing that they put out. And that's just a big degradation that I've seen on Facebook media, is people sharing all these articles that have zero journalistic integrity. And that comes from both sides, really. It's not just the right. There is definitely a left spin that happens. So that sharing and believing everything you see on Facebook is definitely a problem.
As far as candidates go, I think it's been it's had a huge impact. I don't know if you guys see the political stuff around, but I see it all over the place. And whether it's sponsored by an actual campaign, whether it's a link someone posted, or if it's just a social media rant, which I feel like we see a lot of. It helps get the word out to a lot of people, and it helps helps people read up easier. Because we all have social media at our fingertips. I bet we could all pull out our phones and pull up Facebook in the next 10 seconds. And so it's definitely it's very convenient. There are definitely some misconstrued things on there, so people do have to be careful. There's always people who will get into arguments on Facebook, and they might share a link. And I know that there have been a couple of people I've gotten in an argument with where they share a link and they don't expect me to actually read it. And like you get 2/4 of the way down and you're like, this is arguing for my side. What's going on here?
Liberty Nation, Blue State Press, stuff like that. It's just like, what are these things?
Yeah, it gets interesting sometimes.
For both of you, I was wondering, do your organizations select a candidate from a certain political party and help them out, or do individuals select their own candidates and help at will?
I'd say with us, we had the designated, it was a Coster shared office with the Adair County Dems, so it was like any candidate can't work out of there, but anybody who went to that Coster office was primarily helping Chris Coster or Jason Kander. So if there were some of my people in the College Dems chapter who definitely reached out. Like one of my members was the personal aide to Judy Baker during the primary. So she got a lot of campaign experience in, and that's gotten her more involved in the organization as time's gone on. So people mostly I can help set them up, or they go out and find stuff on their own, but definitely Coster and Kander were the most ones helped.
We're kind of similar. It's really whichever campaign gets its roots in the best. I'm an intern on the Mike Parson campaign. I've got a friend that's an intern on the Roy Blunt campaign, another one on the Schmidt campaign, and another one on the Greitens campaign. And so right now Greitens has an office up here, and so simply through the ease of being able to go over there, sit down and start making phone calls, they get a lot of our effort. But we've also had days where we go out and work for Blunt. We've had days where we phone banked for Schmidt. And a lot of times, before, Greitens now has an internet app that they can use to make phone calls, but before that, they only had a certain amount of phones. So what we would do is we would do a big day of activity where we tried to get as many people in the office as we could, and we started with Greitens, filled up the phones, moved to the next campaign, to the next. And so we help as many campaigns as we can, but it's a big issue of resources, because we've got a lot of people, and we've got to be able to use them efficiently, so we can't be wasting our time too much.
So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit here. What would you say to people who considered or just did not vote today? What would you want to say to them?
I really don't want to hear you complain. It's very fair that somebody doesn't want to vote, or they think that that's their voice in this election, is that they don't like voting. They don't think that our democracy works. But you got to play the game if you want to change the rules, and that's kind of where I go at with that.
I'm going to use that. That's a good phrase. I would say that if you're one of the people who didn't vote today, you're probably one of the people who hung up on me today. But, like Andy said, if you want your voice to be heard, you got to cast a ballot. There are a lot of people who say statistically it really just doesn't matter. But, we have a civil duty. We have a constitution. We have laws set up for a reason. And, this is This is where we live. This is our home, especially when it's something like this. We have so many state elections going on where, I mean, if we look at any of the statewide candidates, it could be decided by just a few thousand votes. If you look at a county thing, it could be decided by a handful. I know that 2 years ago, one of the candidates ran, I can't remember what he was running for, but Mike Brummett lost by 17 votes.
It was to the county clerk, I think.
County clerk,
or maybe it was the county collector, but.
But yeah, no, our vote matters, and sometimes people don't see it that way. And sometimes they're so fed up with the candidates, you know, they're just like, I can't put myself behind this. To which I say, I'm sure you could probably find one that matches you the most closely. And so I would urge anyone, you know, to vote the next time around.
Kind of going off what you said, you can find someone to match what you believe most closely. You two are here from College Republicans and College Democrats, but there are other parties. What do you feel third parties play? What is their role in this current election or the government as a whole?
Go ahead.
All right. I mean, I love the idea of third parties. You know, the two-party system just ends up with this huge ideological split that just causes huge divides in our country. People argue, and they just argue for the sake of arguing, really. And, you know, you see countries that have more of a, well, I'm not saying we should adopt it, but they have a more parliamentary system. And, you know, more parties than just two parties can get involved. And while they might not have this huge voice, they at least have something in the Congress or, oh, I guess the Parliament over there. But if we adopted something similar, we could see more third-party stuff. But with the first past the post voting system, it just inherently you're just wasting your vote, or you're pulling a vote away from the person who is closer to you, I would say. Because, like, let's say you want to vote for you don't want to vote for Donald Trump, but you're a conservative, so you vote for Gary Johnson. I mean, that's just pulling away from the ability for a Republican to appoint a conservative Supreme Court judge. Or same goes for if you're voting for Jill Stein and you want a liberal Supreme Court judge. It just pulls away from actually having a voice.
Yeah, it's really hard for third parties to gain traction. But I mean, there's something to be said for voting your conscience. So if someone comes to me saying like, look, this is who I intimately believe in, I'm not going to tell them that's a bad thing. I'm going to tell them vote the way you want to. As far as the actual setup of how our democracy runs, like Andy said, it's almost rigged against them. I mean, our electoral delegates are brought to the forefront by the respective parties, and so whichever just the two that happen to be the biggest, you know, happen to get the most. And so, you know, that doesn't help third parties at all. But something that we see more in with countries that have our political setup, they're less radical because you don't have the far extremes on either end that are, you know, making as many decisions. So you could point to a lot of bad things, but you could point to some good things as well.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't want to change our system too much. You know, we keep a certain alignment.
Yeah.
So thank you for your opinions tonight. I have one more question for you. As college students here on campus, how do you feel that college students can be involved, or how much should we be involved as college students?
I mean, I think we should get really involved. I mean, while we have our studies that we definitely have to put first, we're not necessarily working jobs all the time, you know. We have the ability to spend some time to go out and about. We're young, we're able-bodied, we're able to get out there and hammer in a yard sign or hammer in those big 4-foot by 8-foot signs. Those are the best. But you know, we can go knock doors for 3 hours.
Yeah, no, I hear a lot of people who just say, you know, they're too darn busy, and you know, school's got to come first. Like, I got a call from a campaign, and I was sitting in class, and I left class to go take it, and like I had to pause for a second to answer, and the campaigner said, look, I heard that you're being quiet. It sounds like you're in class. You need to get back in there. So she told me to go back in class. So school has to come first, but we can all spare a few minutes to help someone out. I mean, a few minutes, even if it's a half hour, that's 25 phone calls, you know, 5 vote commits. That you do that a couple of times a week and you get 1,000 people, 1,000 college students doing it, you change the election.